Now the need of a developer on a Shopify store or a BigCommerce store is going to start to decrease, right, tremendously.
Hello everybody, welcome to Search. This week we will talk about hosted e-commerce solutions versus open source e-commerce solutions, and then we'll sprinkle a little bit enterprise in there. Now, Joe, the reason that I wanted to talk about this, and I'm pretty sure that we have some old Search session where we kind of reviewed this, is because there are new technologies coming into market. There are new e-commerce platforms that are coming into market. There's a lot of headless technology now, and headless means that you can have your front end where your product display or your front end CMS on one platform and your checkout is another platform. That's called a headless e-commerce implementation. When we look at this, and we have clients on, I still consider Magento open source, Magento 2. So let's define what's open source and what's not. Hosted solutions, very straightforward. Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, 3D Cart, Miva, all these guys are hosted. Open source solutions, the majority ones are Magento, a lot of OpenCart, Xcart, which is really old. Then you have WooCommerce, WordPress, which I think is one of the most viable options if you have less than 50 products. Who else do we have? We have a bunch of other ones, but basically hosted means that it's hosted with a company and you're renting their technology on a monthly basis. Shopify is an example of this. They update their technology on a monthly or quarterly basis. So you get a bunch of new features every quarter, but you got to pay them monthly. A lot of business owners don't like that. Open source means that you can take an OpenCart installation, or you can take a Magento or a WooCommerce installation. You can install it on any server or any hosting account, and you own not only do you own the data, but you own the servers, or you own the code to that specific platform as well. But the hosted solutions like Shopify and BigCommerce, the moment you stop paying them, you don't have a website anymore. So when we look at clients and when we look at prospects who come to us and they say, well, I want to do A, B, C, D. Here are my objectives. Here is my business growth plan. How do we guide them into, okay, well, you need to be on a hosted cart versus, you can be on an open source?
Yeah. Well, we take a look at their business model, right? Or we take a look into the back-end operation of their business and everything from A to Z, how many products they have, what their average order value is, what their margins are. Are they more of do they sell higher volumes or a higher price point, right? So all of these things need to be taken into consideration when making that decision, hosted or open source. Another would be functionality that the business needs in order to operate. In many cases, your standard hosted solution will have a lot of the out-of-the-box functionality and technology that any standard e-commerce business owner will need. Therefore, reducing the cost of hiring a developer, having to create that functionality. Now, the more complex of functionality that you need, now you're talking about probably going more towards an open source platform if you're going to have some proprietary technology that you need to build in order to run your e-commerce store.
Yep, got it. So it really depends. It's really a customized approach into what you need as an e-commerce business and what kind of solution you need when you're thinking about an e-commerce platform, right? But to simplify, what we usually say is this, and we have a lot of, right now, the industrial B2B businesses are seeing the potential of e-commerce and they're moving more to e-commerce. I'm talking about the machinery, the parts, the industrial businesses, the manufacturers, and they always have and these are old-fashioned folks, right? They want to control their data. They're scared to pay somebody monthly for the rest of their lives. So they lean towards open source more. And there are a couple of questions that we ask to decide, and we'll break it, open source versus hosted. Do I go to something like a BigCommerce or Shopify, or can I have this on WooCommerce, WordPress? And the answer is pretty simple. Number one, do you have hundreds of products? If you have hundreds of products, or maybe thousands of products, you probably should be on a hosted cart, okay, or a headless. Number two is, I won't be able to control my data. I won't own my data. I don't want to pay somebody forever. The cost of ownership of having an e-commerce site is going to be significantly higher with open source because of the specific fact that you will not get those technology updates from an e-commerce platform that has merchants that do millions of dollars. So when the business owner is making a decision, they're like, well, I'm going to go with WordPress WooCommerce because, I can control it, I can customize it, I own my data and all of this good stuff. However, the challenge there is that you're going to pay a company like me forever for support, because with open source, there's a big chance that when you edit a code here, something else is going to break here. And that's why every single business that runs an open source solution that does more than $6 million probably has a dedicated developer that's working on that website. Okay. But you don't need that on Shopify and BigCommerce. We have clients on BigCommerce that do $10, $20 million. Clients on Shopify that do $10, $20, $30 million. They don't have a dedicated team of developers that work on it. They might do projects time to time, but they don't have to pay monthly. So that is the primary difference. However, if you have a subscription-based business and if you want to do about $1 million, you have one or two products, you don't really need to be on Shopify. You can just spin up a WordPress WooCommerce site. You have only one product. Now, if you have 2,000 people simultaneously trying to check out on that website, then it becomes a problem, because remember, open source code is different than hosted code, because the hosted sites need to pay attention. Shopify and BigCommerce need to pay attention to that checkout. That checkout cannot break. So that's the first thing that they pay attention to. And that's why we actually suggest hosted solutions more than the open source solutions. Now, Joe, the other side of this coin is these new guys that are popping up, right? There is a lot of new technology, new e-commerce. They're trying to grab market share. Right now, I feel like for people who are serious about making millions of dollars, a lot of the requests that we get from merchants who are doing over $40, $50 million to go to enterprise. And enterprise, we know it's a nightmare, right? So what do you think about the e-commerce environment when you look at this open source, hosted, and enterprise? How do you think that this is going to play out in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we're going to continue to see an increase in hosted e-commerce stores, simply because of the fact that, like you said, technology is consistently going to evolve with your store while you're just paying the same exact monthly rate. You wouldn't need to hire a developer to implement any additional technology. At the same time, app stores, right? The Shopify app store, BigCommerce app store, these are growing at a very fast pace. What that means is that now the need of a developer on a Shopify store or a BigCommerce store is going to start to decrease, right? Tremendously. So any additional functionality, any third-party API tool, it's going to be in the form of an app that any non-developer can simply implement into their site. As these integrations grow and these apps grow, I think that's going to be even more of a reason why a lot of e-commerce store owners are going to lean towards hosted solutions.
Got it. And the last thing I would add there is, if you are thinking about moving from open source or from WooCommerce, OpenCart into a BigCommerce or a Shopify, it really depends on what your operation looks like. If you're doing more than $500,000, I think you should do the move regardless, just because it's a lot easier to scale in a hosted solution because the technology is there than in an open source solution like a WooCommerce, right? And that's the first thing. So if you have, 100, 200 to thousands of products, the moment that you migrate or start on a hosted cart solution, you're going to see a push in your organic visibility and in your orders. There's no question about it, because it's going to be easier for your customers to go through the checkout. The challenge there is a lot of the industrial businesses, and again, larger businesses who want to control the technology, control the data, control the database, and they're paranoid about being on the servers of another company, regardless of how big they're, like Shopify or BigCommerce. That is still going to be a challenge when it comes to convincing the C-levels that this is the right move. But when we do that, and when we try to convince, again, the decision makers in larger organizations that are industrial businesses, what we say is always the same thing. You're going to get better returns, better ROI, better orders on hosted solutions. 95% of the time. The only time that will push an open source or even a custom solution is if you are just at a different level, you're doing over $60-70 million. Then you might need to be on an enterprise solution like Salesforce Cloud Commerce, or you might need to be on an Episerver or a Sitecore, right? Even though some of these platforms are older enterprise, they can still customize your backend processes pretty efficiently. That's it for this week. We'll talk to you guys next week.